We're back on your favourite local radio station with the magic of the musicals, and it's such a pleasure to meet a lady who is unique. Ashley Brown, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Well, I'm all right, but I've got a real problem already.
Uh-oh.
I'll tell you what it is. Normally, I get to interview big stars, and I've got a million questions. Mm-hmm. And there's only one question I can think of asking you, to be honest.
Only one question?
Will you marry me?
I don't know. I might need some flowers and some cards first. So.
Should I be fancying Mary Poppins? Because I saw you on stage last night and you just brought such glamour to it. So anyway, will you marry me?
Of course.
Good.
I need a good English man, so...
Well, your accent is remarkable because sat here now, this is you. On stage last night, you really were Mary Poppins, and that was something that made me nervous when I heard they were bringing this over. Because to do a good English accent is not that easy, as is proved in the film.
Yes, it was not easy at all, and I went through a lot of dialect sessions to get there, because, Mary Poppins has to be practically perfect, and I knew a lot of English people were coming expecting this English nanny, so I worked really hard at it. But I learned, because I'm from the South, that Southern and British are the closest you can get. So I had a head start, and I didn't even know it. What
is it like being the biggest star on Broadway for a lady right now? I was thinking if you're the Phantom of the Opera for a bloke, that has to be probably the best role because it's the most well-known. You've made it, haven't you?
Yes. It's so funny because it's still very surreal to me, and it's already been a year, and I'm not sick of singing the songs, and I'm not sick of doing it at all. And it's just a dream come true, and it's still, I don't think it will sink in until I'm probably 82 and be like, okay, I did play Mary Poppins. And, and having people say, how does it feel to play Mary Poppins is the only time it's ever really real to me.
The first time I saw you was as Belle in Beauty and the Beast, and again, you've just clearly got that X factor. You've got the thing that every leading lady should have. You've got the height, and you've got the look, and you've got the hair and the glamour. But the voice is so mesmerising, and I noticed particularly with your performance last night, even more so than in the West End, you really can shine in this role because they're good songs to sing, aren't they?
Yes, I love singing these songs, and it was a movie I watched over 1,000,000 times when I was little. So to really bring these songs to life on stage is so amazing, like singing Spoonful of Sugar and Feed the Birds, and it's just amazing. And to actually, do songs like Practically Perfect and Anything Can Happen, which are new songs, and actually sing something, people don't hear Julie Andrews singing, has been really nice as well.
The question I was left asking myself yesterday was, how do you get through a 2-show day? Because you never stop, do you?
I don't. I'm never off stage, and when I am off stage, it's more hectic than when I'm on stage because I'm changing or getting water or whatever. And, it's really about pacing yourself. And, in between shows, I kind of nap. I usually order in if it's cold out or just kind of hang out by myself in between. And, my parents are very thankful because I was always such a hyper child. I think my hyperactivity is being used finally. So I was born with a lot of energy.
The one thing I noticed last night about your voice is it's got touches of kind of opera in it. It's got that belting big final note that you kind of go, is she going to make it? Because there are some shows you go to and they don't make it. How nervous are you on those 2-show days at the final performance in that last big number that you're going to get the note?
I'm not really nervous about it anymore. Obviously, if I'm ever under the weather, it's very... there's some times when I feel human, and when those things happen, it's live theater, and I think people enjoy seeing how you recover. And so I try to just enjoy the moment and not try to worry about it too much. And because I feel that the more you worry, the more stress your vocal cords can get. And so, I've been very lucky, knock on wood, with some pretty strong cords. And, of course, when I have a cold and you have to keep, the show must go on. And so I go on. And there's been times when I've learned that I'm no longer a machine. It's a very humbling moment, as they say. So it's happened, but I think people enjoy watching people recover and how they use it.
This show is very similar to The Lion King in a sense that you don't really need to be a kid to see this and enjoy it. The film is the same, really. You can enjoy it no matter what age you are. It has some very clever tricks in it, and the scenery particularly is so complex and complicated. If it goes wrong, the whole thing has to stop, doesn't it?
Well, it doesn't stop, but Ashley is a little egg on face. There are nights when I'm not as magical. Just because a lot of my magic depends on the calling of the show, or it just depends on me. And as I said, it's live theater, and you're not always the best. And so there's been times when I've definitely had to come up with lines, and the audience always eats it up. And you just kind of have to be on your toes because there are things, because so much goes on in the show, and there's so much magic and so many amazing things that when it goes wrong, it goes real wrong.
Did you have to train with David Copperfield to do this?
Well, I definitely had to train with the person who came up with all the magic for all the Disney shows. And so I trained, and I was so nervous because I'm like, oh gosh, I never went to school for magic. Oh my God, they don't know who they're dealing with, because I can be clumsy at times. And so I definitely had to learn how to do it, because there's definitely the lamp that I pull out is, made out of oak, and everything's heavy, and I'm singing at the same time. So it was definitely learning everything bit by bit and kind of putting it together in layers.
Another thing I have to ask you, are you okay?
Of course I'm all right.
Well, I'm worried about your back going up and down those stairs all those times. It's got to hurt your poise, hasn't it?
It does. It actually hurts my legs, especially Sunday nights, you know, the 8th show of the week. I swear they add an extra stair. There are some times when I'm like, oh, my word, my thighs are killing me. But it's, you know, it's great. It always gets a good laugh, which makes me happy.
What is it like being a leading lady? I mean, you're it, really. You're what every girl who goes to the theatre school dreams about. You've got the top role. It's hard to believe that you would ever be out of work again because you're so consistent. And I think that's the key, isn't it, to being brilliant?
Every single night, you know, and that's one thing that I've definitely learned, you know, playing this role is it's not as glamorous as you might think. You know, I mean, I live a very disciplined life, you know, just because, you know, I'm doing what I love to do. And so that's what it's also worth. I don't even know if I call it sacrifice because it's not even sacrificing because I'm able to do what I love to do. But yes, it's one of those professions where, you know, you can leave everything at the door, and there are days when I don't feel like singing Spoonful of Sugar, but I do, and, you know, and pretend like it's the first time because the people in the audience had never seen it. So, you know, it depends on how you look at it. It's a great thing that you can just leave all your baggage at the door and have just a wonderful, happy show, and we all leave so happy, and we all get along. I know it sounds like I'm being paid to say this, but we really do have such a great company. But, you know, it is sometimes I don't get tired of singing the material, but sometimes my body and voice is tired, and it's something you have to overcome.
Where do you go after this? Is there anything bigger on Broadway now?
You know, that's probably, I think, my biggest fear is it's just, this is such an amazing thing for me. And, you know, people are like, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? And I think I'm at a place where, you know, I'm only 25. And of course, there's going to be other things. But, you know, I'm so happy and content and fulfilled right now that, you know, it's hard. I try to, you know, just focus on the moment and not worry about the future. So I don't look back and say that I never enjoyed that moment. And because I really feel that things are going to happen the way they're supposed to. And that's kind of been how I've thought about life up until now, and it's worked for me. So, you know, I definitely think, you know, at one point I'm going to have to break out, but it's been so nice being able to do Mary Poppins where my family and my church and everybody can come and enjoy and not have to be in, you know, Slut the Musical, where I would have to be like, sorry, Grandma, you can't come, you know. But, you know, one day there's going to be a day when I'm going to have to do something like that.
One thing that really bothers me about what you do is that you go on there every night and you're the big star and you work so hard and you're clearly the best at it. I seriously think you're one of the best people I've ever seen in the West End or on Broadway. You just have that magic. Yet probably 1% of the people who leave that theatre know your name. Isn't that slightly depressing that you're up there, you're the star for that 2.5 hours and they only know you as Mary Poppins?
Yeah, sometimes, you know, it's a little tough, you know, just because people are like, yo, you're that girl that plays Mary Poppins. And, you know, I wonder if that's going to probably be with me. You know, it's probably kind of on a smaller scale what Julie Andrews still feels 40 years later. She will always be Mary Poppins. I'm sure she's like, all right, people, you know, move on. You know, but that's obviously, she's on a completely larger scale than I am. But, you know, sometimes, you know, because I meet people, I go to the stage door and sign kids' programs, and they're like, is your name May? I'm like, no, it's Ashley, and I'm not really her. You know, it's kind of, you know, so sometimes it does get tough, but I mean, nothing it's, you know, it's not hard. It's nothing I would, you know, stop being the role for by any means.
And that thrill where you see yourself on the poster, is that still a buzz every time you walk through Broadway? I mean, you're everywhere.
Yes, and it's also very funny because, you know, I'll be walking through and I'll be at the box office with my mother and people in line getting tickets for Mary Poppins, and they have zero clue until maybe an usher walks by and they're like, oh my gosh, and then everybody in the ticket was like, you know. So I'm still, because I look so different in my costume, I'm still able to, you know, it takes people, unless they look online and see pictures of me as Ashley, do they realize who it is. But every once in a while I'll get, you know, people who will recognize me and everything. But, you know, it's a kind of a small little personal secret that when I walk by the poster, I want to be like, that's me, you know, but of course I never would. That's what's so great about meeting people off stage. It's just, I think people are really surprised about how, you know, grown men who are like, oh, my family dragged me here, and it brought tears to my eyes, and how funny it was and witty and amazing, and just how people come into the show thinking it's going to be just another little Disney show, and it's not. It's more than that. It's a deep show, and it's about a family who's having to overcome a lot of troubles, and this magic nanny who comes in and fixes everything. It's, you know, it's a family story that everybody can relate to. You know, the parents know how it is to be the children, and, you know, but it's different. It's the musical's its own thing. It has the books and the film, and it's everything. So that's why it's so much greater than I think people will think.
What's that Gavin Lee like to work with?
Oh, he's wonderful. We have the best time together. We give each other the hardest times, but we actually, people are like, you guys are disgusting, because me and him and his wife, Emily, we all three hang out outside of the theater. People are like, don't you see each other enough? But we're always on stage, so we don't really see each other, you know, to hang out. But so we he's been such a gift, and we've had such a great time, and I'm just so happy he was able to come over from London. And very few people come across like their role. Like, you cannot picture anybody else playing that role. That's why they brought him over. And I mean, he's physically it, he's mentally, vocally, everything that part. And this is his role. And, you know, and when he was nominated for a Tony, I just couldn't have been more proud, because he deserves it more than anybody in this whole world. So, you know, I'm really, really happy for him, because I think people from the West End coming to Broadway, like he always says, you know, it wasn't even a dream of mine, because he thought it was never even possible. And, you know, that's a really cool thing to have happen to him. And, you know, he never even dreamt of it, because it wasn't, you know, he never thought it would become his reality, and it has. So
some of the arty-farty people sneer at Disney, and I never understand why, because with The Lion King, you have the best opening in theatre ever, and I think with this musical, you probably have the best close ever. Are we allowed to reveal what happens to you in the end, or shall we leave that to people who come and see you?
We can reveal it. I think it's pretty much well known that I fly over the audience at the end, and it's because, I mean, even saying it doesn't do it justice. You have to see it, because, I mean, it's truly amazing. And you can't see the wires. I know that's giving away Disney magic, but, you know, you can't see. It's a very magical. That's when I see the grown men crying, because I can see faces, and that's when it's truly spectacular that, you know, people see this happen, because it's never happened before on Broadway. People, you know, flying over the audience, and it's a great time, because I can actually see the people who I've been performing for so long, and see the faces and the reactions, and everybody hugging and coming together. It's great.
Congratulations on this. You've done it brilliantly, and it was a worry, because to get the accent right, there's a lot of pressure, isn't there?
Oh, the pressure was unbelievable, but, you know, it was so nice having such support from Disney and Cameron McIntosh and our director Richard. You know, they really trusted me to bring in my own thing, and I just thank them so much for that, because I couldn't recreate what Julie Andrews did. She did it amazingly and brilliantly, and there's just no other way to do it other than different.
Thank you so much for talking to me today. We're going to end with a song before we talk to Gavin.
In the show, I actually sing Feed the Birds with the Bird Woman, but on the track number 8 is a solo version of Feed the Birds.
Thank you so much for talking to me. You're fabulous.
Thank you.